In today's tutorial, we're learning how to make this creative lime design in Canva in just a few minutes, including the animation as well as the peel effect of the lime. So we're starting from a complete normal image and we're turning it into this creative design. And we're starting from a blank canvas. Now first we want to add a nice green to the slide. So select the background and go to background color. Scroll down until you see the gradients, select one and then go up again to the color wheel. We're going for this circular gradient. And we want the darkest part to be out, so we're going to drag the dark part out. Let's change the color a bit. For the green, I'm using D0FF7B as the lightest color. And for the dark one, we also want some green tint. I'm using 9DD832. So this is a subtle gradient where we have the light part in the middle. And this will make our subject stand out more. Now let's add the lime to the slide. So go to Elements and type in lime. Go to Photos and select the nice lime here. Let's make it a bit smaller and rotate it to about 60-ish degrees. Now we want to add a shape to the slide. So go to type in shape and go to the Shapes tab. And here we want to choose the tilted rectangle, but the one which has the tilt towards the right. So I'm going to select that and add it to the slide. I'm going to make it wider and less tall. Now let's grab the line. And we're going to reduce the crop mark so we only have the top part of the line visible. Now grab the shape. Let's give it a nice darker color. So go to Photo Colors and make it the darkest. Now we make sure that we drag this shape and we want to position the bottom part of that shape with the corner here of the image. So I'm going to position it right here and maybe also tilt it slightly. We can make it smaller. And then try to fit it in. Position, send to back. And now we can play around with the settings and the width until we have a nice connection here at the bottom. And then having it peeking out towards the right. Now we're going to hold the Option key on a Mac or the Control key on Windows. And we're going to adjust the crop selection. So let's make it the second part of that line and position it here. You can see that we don't want the exact same proportions. So if we were to make the line fit perfectly, like this, and we then adjust the selection, it looks a bit weird. So if we position it about here, you can see that we get this jump cut, and we don't want that. We don't want that weird cut. So we're going to increase it slightly so that it optically looks like it's one line. And the curves, they sort of match the complete line. It looks better visually. And I'm going to adjust it so that the corner here on the right, it nicely matches. You can always make it wider if you want. It sort of depends on the style that you want to generate. I'm going to go for somewhere in between. So let's make this slightly smaller. And then you can always use the arrow keys to shift it to the right position. I think this looks quite good. Now I'm going to copy the shape. So again, hold the Option and drag, or Control and drag. And then also here shift it so that the corner meets nicely. Let's increase this in size. Do the same for the picture. And then of course we have to adjust the crop mark. Again, it doesn't have to be perfect. Somewhere where it looks around right is good enough. So I'll position the lime so it looks like a nice continuation, and then adjust the selection here. And then use the arrow keys to nicely match it up. And then one final time for the bottom part. It will be around here. Adjust the selection so that we have everything visible. And also adjust the top mark. And let's place it right around here. Use the arrow keys to match it up nicely. And here we can see that the shape of the lime still remains quite visible. So even though it's not perfectly realistic and some of the parts are larger than the other, visually it looks quite good. Now as a little extra to create some 3D, I think we can add a gradient to this green. So I'm going to color, scroll down and select the gradient colors. Now of course we want to change the tones. So go to color wheel and then choose the darkest one, color picker, and choose that dark. Let's maybe do the same for the other one and then drag it towards the darker side. Maybe this one can be a bit lighter. There we go. So ideally, I think since we have the light source coming from this side on the line, we can see that this is the lighter spot and this is the darker spot. I think it would make sense that this part is the lightest in the shape and the right part is the darkest. That would be the natural cast of the shadow. So I'm going to try to replicate that with the presets. If you don't find it entirely or you want to change them around, you can always drag the colors and adjust the direction of the gradient. So I think this looks quite good. Then once you're happy with the gradient, you can select it, copy style, and then paste it onto the others. And by just adding that gradient, we add some depth to that line. Now let's add some elements to the slide. Maybe I'm going to group these together. So select them all, Ctrl G, go to elements, and let's type in lime slice. Go to photos, and then pick one of the lime slices. Here we can see we have a shadow. If you don't want that, you can always do background remover and it will remove that shadow. I'll open up the magic recommendations, see if I can find a different angle of the slide, maybe something slightly curved or angled. This one will be perfect. And I'm going to add it to the slide as well, so that we have some different angles of that slice. Maybe I'll use this one. I think it looks a bit fresher than the one here. So I'm going to remove this and add this nice one to the slide. And maybe also a third one. I think this looks good. Then we have different angles. And here we also have a good example of the tone differences. So this one is a bit more green and this one's more towards the yellow side. So whichever one you like, I'm going to use the green one as an example and turn it into the yellow one. Go to Edit, Adjust, and here we want to play around with the color settings. So you can go for the color edit and drag it more towards the yellow side. You can do it quite a lot to make it look like a lemon, but we don't want to overdo it. We want to only just slightly drag it towards the yellow side and give that yellow tint. You can always play around with the warmth of the colors to make it perfectly fit the others. And I think this will be quite a good result. So I'm going to close it and now I'm going to add or distribute them on the slide. Let's add this one here. It can be quite large and overlapping with the line, that is no problem. You can always select one, flip horizontal to have some variation on it. I'm going to slightly rotate it, put a large one here, maybe make a copy of this one, Ctrl C, Ctrl V, make it smaller, and let's send it to the back, so position, send to back. This way we get some depth into the slide. Let's create some more copies, rotate them. You can always flip vertical as well to have a different perspective on that part, just like this. And maybe a smaller copy behind. There we go. I kind of like the natural shapes more than the perfect alignment here. I'm not really a fan of the looking straight from the top, so I'm going to remove that one and replace it with a variant or a flipped variant of these smaller ones. I think those feel more natural if you see them float around. So let's make a copy here, smaller, and send that to the back. Position, send to back. And maybe a final one where we grab this, rotate it, and put it somewhere in the top corner. Let's give this some breathing room that we can add some text later on. And now if you really want to add some depth to this slide, what I like to do is select one of the limes in the background, go to Edit, Blur, Whole Image, and then increase the intensity to, it can be quite a lot. Let's try 70 in this case, and then go back. And you can see it is out of focus. So let's copy the style and repeat that for the others that are in the background. It can also be for the ones in the foreground. It reduces the emphasis on those and sort of makes the other ones stand out a bit more. Let's maybe flip this one horizontally and drag it, give it some space that we can add some text here in between. Now we go to text, title, and type in lime. Let's drag it right in here and give it a nice white color font. I think something handwritten or brush will fit nice, so I'm going to go for the fonts and look for a nice brush font. Let's try a few different ones. Regular brush, that doesn't work for caps. But let's see what we can find. I think this Rush font will do perfectly well. Increase it in size. Those I'm going to make a bit smaller so that the lime gets the full attention that it deserves. And then as a subtitle, let's call it Fresh and Local. Could be something for your ad. And also make it white. For that I'm using a standard Montserrat font. And maybe we go for one tint lighter. So we go for the sub font. Now it's medium, regular or light. That's a bit too large. Let's place it just around here. And then center everything nicely in the middle. Now I want to add some animations. So I'm going to select the floating limes. Hold shift while selecting multiple at a time. Go to animate and then scroll down and look for the rotate effect. So this way we see that they are rotating on the slide. Now let's go for the thumbnail view. Duplicate the slide. So press Ctrl D. And I'm going to remove everything from this page except for the background. Hover in between for a transition and go for a nice flow animation to have everything flow in nicely. And we put it at 1.8. And now let's preview what we have. And this is how you can create this really cool rotating lime animation with a special effect on the lime where we see it peeling around and the parts floating in your design. Thanks a lot for watching, and if you want to learn more about Canva, make sure to drop a follow and watch the video on the screen right now.